Do you really get time off at tech companies during the holidays?
We have sort of a problem here.
Is PTO legitimate or is it just some play within the tech ecosystem? I'm Justin, and welcome back to this episode of the Rush Hour podcast, where my co host TW and I take our 30 years of Silicon Valley consumer tech experience at companies like Microsoft, Discord, Zynga, and Twitch. So today we're discussing our experience of what happens at companies during the holidays, like giving you the real deal, and also some of the lessons from recent LinkedIn experiments we did to try to grow our podcast. Happy holidays, and let's dive in. Three, two, one, go!
All right, I got an example for you, Justin. So I'll set the tone a little bit. I was at a gaming company that was trying to IPO. You do what you want with how you figure that out. And it was the holiday, right? We had, gaming was not really e-commerce, but they were real sales happening Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and the holidays were coming, and it was like, we need a big quarter here.
Oh, I know I don't think I see what I'm seeing, what I'm thinking.
So it was all hands on deck. Not really time off. Like we had to exchange, um, you know, I'm working this day, you're working that day to give us a little bit of freedom. But it was really like we got all these things that launch throughout the holidays. So you need to be on it. And that means emails, that means ads, that means promotional, sort of product driven content that we were creating and prompting. So it was like a busier work week than normal because we knew all these people would be on and playing games, and we wanted to monetize that. And the company had a sort of a real fire lit because of the IPO that was coming. So those were some of the busier times I remember in the holidays where it was like, everybody, we got to do this. This is a big push. So jump on and let's figure this thing out. And then there have been other times where I'm at a larger company and it's like full shutdown, only call if it's an emergency. Your manager says, I don't even want you to check your email. Unplug. We've had a big year. Thank you. We'll go. That is probably like more rare, I would say, in my career. It's usually there's something, especially when you're in marketing and promotions and product, that there's something that comes up. You need some sort of coverage during the holiday is kind of how it's gone in my 25 plus years. It's like some combination of that is more common than just unplug and don't worry about it. That's happened a handful of times. It's not very common. And in e-commerce, it's like Black Friday through, in the e-commerce sort of experience I've had, all hands on deck. We've got Black Friday, Cyber Monday, push all the way through. And then that shipping deadline comes 23rd, things start to slow down, and you can actually, for e-commerce anyways, there's a little unplug between Christmas, New Year's is a lot lighter. That's been my experience. I've been curious to know, when you were at, Start Bay and you were really in garage mode, what were the holidays like for you?
I mean, holidays existed in terms of like you were there physically present. Like I was there physically present with my family. I didn't miss holidays. Like my body was there, but my mind was never 100%, kind of checked in because it's just the nature of the job, and you couldn't be. You have a hand in so many different things. I was primarily responsible for kind of marketing and product, but it gets down to the very tactical level of like, and you'll appreciate this, working with ads, making sure that social content is still going up. I found a lot of times during the holidays, either something really good would happen or really bad would happen on the product side. Like, oh man, we got all these new users that are, oh God, people can't get into the app and it's crashing. So the holidays was always a time to decompress to a certain extent in terms of like just seeing family and being part of holiday environment, but not really off, not really off. And to the point around the larger companies you're talking about, I think we had a similar experience at Twitch and other companies where, marketing, you kind of make your name during these big beats, these tentpole moments, and there's always some type of campaign going on there. So, when you're the more junior level, you're probably hands on keyboard, doing a lot of stuff, making sure that everything actually kicks off. And even when you're managerial level, you're still making sure that those things have kicked off. So
Yeah.
some places are more intense than others, but I feel
Right.
like there's always something going on, particularly
There is.
within marketing space.
I would say the worst that I'd been through is like not only like having to be on, especially in like a director level role, that is like morning check-in, scrum, you meet with your team,
Mm-hmm.
here's the task for the day, you send an update to the executives who are probably in Aspen like skiing, and you're like, here's what we got planned for the day, and then at the end of the day, same thing. You scrum, what did we get done, how did it go, you send out a report. Like those days were not fun. I mean, they were great and productive, but like knowing that you're the sort of on call and on the hook for all this stuff, and
Yeah.
everyone else is just like they're just looking at it on their phone and they're going to ask you questions and not really doing it, and you're the one on the hook. That's the worst feeling, at least,
Yeah.
in terms of like, I'm giving up my life for this company that could care less, but that's the reality, right? Like,
It definitely is a reality. And tell me if this has happened as well, where it's like, okay, you're setting up the campaign, you kind of signaled and you put together a GTM report of like everything that's going to happen. And then the campaigns kicks off. Then you get an email. Hey, how come this thing hasn't gone out yet? And you're like,
right.
that's because it's tomorrow. Or that's because it's,
Yes.
in 3 hours. Or that's because, hey, we just kicked it off. So you're not going to see a big jump yet in the data. Those were kind of harrowing times because you just knew that something was going to come through. And your only answer was, well, it just hasn't started yet.
Yeah, because I mean, it is about communication and being dialed in, and you knowing what's going on to make it comfortable for you, right? If you the I don't know if it's the right way to say it. The most comforting part of it all is you being on top of it, so so you can have your time off. So like, if you know where everything is and you know the status of everything, it's much easier to unplug and go be with your family, because you're like, I know where all this stuff is. I got
Yeah.
my notes. I know where things are. Versus the other way, which is like dropping in on a parachute off the ski slopes, and then you check your email and you don't really know, and you're just asking
Mm-hmm.
questions. Like, it just depends on where you are in your career. That part for me was like, I'd rather be in the know if it's my campaign than
Yeah.
just start plugging away and asking questions like, I hope it goes well.
Yeah.
Than the other way around. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that definitely makes sense. And I think that like one of the other things we both worked at, some earlier stage companies is depending on how early it is and depending on the size of the team, it can kind of just come down to the whims of the founder. So
Yes.
if for whatever reason they want to be really intense during that time, then
Yeah.
everybody's in founder mode during that time.
Yeah.
Like I've had some people who were like, hey, just don't expect to be off during this time, give your kid a
Right.
Christmas gift and, let's get back because we're building a startup and we trying to have outsized 1000x outcomes here. And have been other people, and typically it's been more kind of like second time, third time founders. Maybe they had some success where they say, this is a time you guys really need to recharge everything.
Right.
You kind of done all that you can do, really take your time with your family. And then, let's get back after it in January. And even in those latter times, they may still ping you like, hey, what happened with this? But it's not as like fervent in terms of
Right.
the energy. But I think a lot of it is dependent on kind of who's running the place too, especially the earlier startups.
Yeah, I would imagine, and we talk about Elon a lot, that he's probably dialing in during the holidays and not caring about what you have going on and asking questions. That's my guess.
Oh,
Based
for
on the
sure.
stuff I've read, he's probably just like, what happened? Why is this? What's going on? I don't care that it's Christmas. Like,
Yeah.
um,
That man is dropping in the SEAL Team 6 out of a helicopter and scooping you up if something
he
needs
is
to
for sure
happen.
like, what happened? Why was there a slowdown today? And it's like, it's Christmas. Like, chill out. But um I've seen it before. Like you said, it is about your manager, and really from the top. Like, if they are very intense, then you're gonna have an intense holiday. And so, like, for those people that are thinking, oh, what's it like in tech? It really is dependent on your manager and the sort of the culture of the company.
Yeah.
And if depending on what you signed up for, maybe you do want to be on, and you're going to learn a ton through the holidays because you signed up for that. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like, it's all perspective, right? If you want to chill holiday and have time off with the family, you got to pick the right job,
Yeah,
essentially.
no, 100%. And I really like the point that you said that like it's also a time where you can do some learning because I feel like
Absolutely.
particularly earlier in the career when you haven't seen as many holiday cycles about what goes on and you know our vantage point is more kind of consumer focused businesses. Um, but you'll see like certain things that happen, certain spikes on some days and not on others, certain lull down periods, and you know, coming out of that, it's called seasonality, and
Right.
you want to be somewhat conversant in
Yeah.
what that means and what happens during that time, et cetera, because then you can take those learnings into you know other campaigns and things that you do for companies over time. So I think there is something to kind of be you know checked in enough if you can
Right.
if you're not as familiar with what happens during that period for your industry to kind of know what it looks like so that you can then take those learnings next year.
Right. If it's a brand new company, new founder, everything first holiday, it's going to be tough. I'm just going to say it. Like it's going to be hard because you're literally setting the benchmark and you got to
Mm-hmm.
understand how it goes. You can't look year over year and be like, "Hey, last holiday season this is what happened." That's probably get ready, buckle in. But if it's B2B, like you said, if you're not going to consumer and it's B2B sales or B2B software or enterprise, the holiday probably isn't as intense for you. So, again, product dependent, is CEO, founder dependent.
Yeah.
Um, is but of course, it all depends is the answer. But we've been through both the nightmares,
Yeah.
and the good
I
stuff.
know. I've definitely seen some companies where it's like very much kind of below during the holidays. Oh my God, our metrics aren't good. And look at our DUs and everything's declining. Like, okay, well, it's because people are spending time with their family and they're
Right?
not like locked into our app. The other times where it's like, oh my God, like what is happening in the data right now? It's like, well, maybe some people are at home and they're talking to their family, and actually, you know, you're getting kind of that word of mouth resonance, and that's why
Yeah.
that's happening now. So it can kind of go both ways. It's not like one singular way in which you can, but it's like you recognize all these things that could happen, and then increases your kind of knowledge and wisdom base, and you go from there.
Yeah, what would you consider now looking back through your career, what would you
Mhm.
consider a good holiday season in terms of work-life balance for you? Like where do
Okay.
you like to be?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's a really great question. So where I like to be is depending on the type of role, and a lot of roles I've been are kind of within the growth space. So you have to be somewhat checked in to kind of make sure
Yep.
campaigns and metrics. But if we've set up everything properly during the holidays and all the different channels, and this could be from kind of like a growth and organic perspective, and we've kind of put together the right editorial calendar. In the morning, I'm checking just to kind of make sure, like kind of mid morning, I'm checking to make sure everything's kind of sound. I'll have notifications turn on so that if I need to like actually get pinged, I'll get pinged. But then check one more time in the evening to just
Yep.
make sure that everything is in a good place. If that's how I'm working, it's only kind of twice a day that I'm kind of checked in, just generally looking at you know different campaigns or initiatives we have going on, things have kind of you know gone out as they're supposed to. That's a win. It's when I'm checking every hour or so. That's nice, which has also happened, but that's you know that's not fun.
Yeah.
Just by trying to spend time with family. What about
Yeah,
you?
I agree. I think at this point in our careers, it feels that that's the I still want to be engaged with it. I want to know what's happening. I want to understand where we are and help where I can. But obviously, for these really small startups, you just got to roll up your sleeve and do them, which is
Yeah,
fine too. But I think it all depends like on your where the company is and what they need. Like both of us, we love making an impact, so
yeah,
we're probably leaning on the side of it's cool. I'll roll up my sleeves if it makes an impact. I'll do it.
yeah,
Which it goes both ways. Sometimes when you have a great holiday season,
yeah,
and like you said, you really make your name around that time. It is
yep,
kind of nice sometimes. Like I remember when I was doing the morning update, that, and then like coming back, thought it was exhausting. But I remember a bunch of execs coming to my desk and being like, "Hey, those updates were incredible. Like I was able to really feel like everything was under control, and I really appreciated that."
yeah,
So it makes you feel good. If nothing else, you're productive, you're helpful. Like people can depend on you. That like you said, you kind of you know put a earmark on who you are and
yeah,
what you're willing to give up. And I know it's not the greatest signal to be like, I'm willing to work through the holiday, but it is nice though. Somebody has to do it. it is kind of nice to be like, hey, I stepped up and I did a good job. And so, like, for those that are trying to make a name for themselves, I know it can feel daunting,
Yeah.
but people do remember it. Like, I remember the people that I worked with for those holidays and how great it was
In the
when we got the things
trenches.
done.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah,
Yeah. Do you, so like for people who are maybe kind of starting out as managers or they're going into kind of their first big holiday period at, a new company, is there any, and I've been kind of given a few different answers, kind of depends on the stage of
yeah,
company and
yep.
type of founder, et cetera. But is there like a relatively basic playbook or framework going into that period that we can maybe leave some folks with based on your experience that you think
I
would be
mean,
helpful?
I'm a if data is available, like year over year data and understanding, especially not just year over year data, but holiday over holiday. So like making sure you're looking at because like I say that for Thanksgiving was different this year than last year
Yep.
in terms of the retail week. So if you can pull the dates and the times and look at it and compare and really understand what's happening and then say, hey, here are the spikes, here are the valleys, to get a good knowledge of that. So when you see your data, you know what to look for. I think that's really helpful. Because if you're just pulling your data and be like, oh, what happened here? And then you've got to go, like
Hmm.
prepare a little bit and pull all the
Yeah.
data and have it in a spreadsheet for you so that you can compare. That has been helpful for me. Like getting a really clear understanding of what last year looked like and maybe even the year prior if you have it
Yeah.
and just pulling that up, having that data handy. So when you're pulling it and someone asks you, you can say, this is what we did last year. This is what we did the year before. We're in line or we're not, or we're ahead or whatever. It just gives you that ammunition, that confidence to kind of make it through the weekend or week.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think the historical context is super important, especially, going back. If you can go back like 5 years, that's great. But I think 3 years is a good sweet spot to kind of
Yeah.
understand if there were any anomalies over that time and, what you can more or less, assume is going to happen. I think one of the things that's been helpful for me as well is you kind of go in with like a team, especially like a small team, is just set expectations of, hey, this is how often we're going to be reporting. If we need, if someone needs to, reach out to me or something's not going wrong, like these are the right channels to do it, et cetera, so
Right.
that there are, as few opportunities for there to be fire drills as possible. I mean, obviously
Yes.
those are always going to come up, but if you can put together processes that keep management happy and your team feeling like they have the tools to kind of do what they need to do, but also enjoy that time. Then I feel like that's the right sweet spot. And to your point, it starts with planning,
Yep.
before, like now, or you probably want to do a little before now, but as soon as you can,
Yeah, like getting
leading
in
up into
there
Q4.
and making it clear to your team, hey, look, we're gonna need you. Are you available to step up during this time? This is what it means. Is helpful. I think people appreciate that, and especially if you're like, hey, I could fill in for if you've got plans or you've got things, then that's what a team is for. So you can each step up and say, hey, look, so and so really needs the 24th morning off. Can we fill in? Can I fill in? Can we fill in these gaps? Like is great. I think people appreciate that.
Yeah, and then having a post mortem after, like, hey, here's what happened in the campaign. Here's what happened. Here's what went really well. Here's where we could improve for the following year. Get the team and rallied around that and be able to share it out. I think if you do all those three things, you'll be in a good place. One other thing as we're kind of talking about this topic that I thought is kind of interesting is especially within the startup game, obviously it's always it can be a grind, it's kind of challenging
Yeah.
time, but you could come out of the holidays and there should be some expectation from managers that a few folks either right coming back from the holidays or a month or so after could be like, hey, this wasn't for me.
Yeah.
So have you had that happen? Have you like dealt with it within an organization? Like, how do you kind of manage that from in your experience and from like a people manager level
I
coming
mean,
back from the holidays?
I'm pretty good at reading sort of the tea leaves on that. Like you can usually tell when somebody's not engaged. Like truthfully, like it rarely do I get one out of nowhere just one day quit. Like that has not happened. It's
Yeah.
usually like you're checking in, you understand where they are, you see their level of engagement and their energy
Hmm.
towards it. And if you're adept to it, you can see like, hey, this person's losing a bit of interest, losing a bit of energy, they're late, they're not there. You talk to them, and then you usually have a clue. You usually have a sense if you're paying attention. Like you were
Mhm.
just oblivious to it, and just like I have no idea, then that's a whole nother story, right? You just got to pay
Yeah.
attention to your team and sort of what their expectations are, um, and go from there. Like I think if you have good communication, nothing should be a surprise. And I'm of the mind like when somebody's like, "Hey, I'm leaving to go to a bigger role," great. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I'm definitely I don't, work you figure out. Sometimes it's disappointing. You like having somebody around, but at the same time, it's like, hey, if you found a better opportunity somewhere else, I'm cheering for you ultimately. And if this was a stepping stone, then great, and we'll figure it out. But I know a lot of people do the other way, where they get really offended when somebody leaves, and they like
Mhm.
it's like always a burned bridge, which I just don't agree with that.
Yeah. I think I fall into your camp on this. I think that we're all human beings, and we're all
Yes.
trying to do what's best for ourselves and our families. And the world is small as well. Like you want to make sure you're trying to treat people right, especially younger, kind of younger reports who leave and done good work, or even if they're not as involved, right? Maybe they're going through something in their lives, and I think that always kind of approaching it with compassion and positivity has has worked well for me, because I know definitely there have been times when these people have, maybe it's been a little bit of a blip, and then they're crushing it for these other roles, and we've been able to reconnect, and it's been very positive. And
Yeah.
so, not because I'm doing this in a self-serving way, because I think it's the right thing to do, but then also, if you are thinking about that, these are people who may not be, who may be an opportunity to like support you or partner with you down the line. So
Yeah, the you hear it a lot when you bring somebody on that's junior, you think of them as a junior level, and as they grow and they develop, you never make that adjustment. You only see them as who you brought them in as. So
yeah.
it sometimes it's nice to either shift departments, shift jobs, to get out of that and be seen in a different light. So it is a challenge, I think, for both everyone involved, right? To see people as an evolving sort of fluid role versus like, hey, you came in as this manager, you're not a director, but like they can
Hmm.
develop into one. You just got to
Yep.
give them the opportunity. So
Definitely.
that's some
Definitely.
everybody's got to work on probably.
Yeah. Anything else along the lines of kind of
Holiday?
end of
No, I
year
think the
holiday stuff?
holidays a good time. The other one I was wondering is how often do you give a holiday gift to a coworker,
Hmm.
boss? What's the gift etiquette for you? Do you ever do it? Do you stay away? Do you?
I haven't done it, and not because I don't think you should do it. I just haven't done it. Maybe I should, man. Put me on the game. Do you do
No,
it? Do you think it's a good move?
I mean, I'm a generous person. I like to do stuff like that, but I definitely don't do it at especially like the brown nose thing, like giving your unless it's like personally your friend. If
Yeah,
it's like
yeah, yeah.
Ganesh, she's my boy, I would do it anyways. That's
No.
one thing, but like brand new manager, I don't do it truthfully.
Yeah.
And then like people. And every once in a while, if we're like on a big project like that, I will absolutely do something for the people that report to me. Like, hey,
Hmm.
either gift cards or whatever it is, for sure. But it's kind of weird. It feels strange, right? Because and then it's like, do I expense that? Can I expense that? Is this just me? Like, I
Yeah.
don't really talk about it when I do it. It just feels like it's out of my pocket, and I just let it be.
Hmm.
And then there's also like clients and like partners like that you got a relationship with. Do you do something? Do you not? Do you do it on the company? Like all of that. I've been at companies where it's like okay to do it, and others that just never do it. And sometimes you're only receiving, which feels really strange when vendors are sending you things, and you're like,
Oh man.
"Is this okay? Like,
Yeah.
what
We
do I
definitely
do?"
got to do a segment on like best vendor gifts at some point. But
Yeah, like I'd love to hear in the comments, like, what are you getting? What do you get from? I know there's like larger companies have like limits on what you can give versus receive and all that. If you're at a
yeah.
startup, yeah, it kind of everything goes out the window.
Yeah. I think because I have been somewhat worried and not wanted to go through all the HR policies of how to do everything.
Yeah,
I haven't necessarily done that, but I think, if there are some large projects, there's some other things where it would be nice. And if you can do it out of your own pocket, and I've definitely done that with like dinners and things like that. Not necessarily around holidays, just kind of when we've kind of done big projects. That's been nice. But now you're getting me more. Now you got me more kind of interested in learning more about what people
No, I
do. So
mean, if you just get into that mode, it is nice to. I'm a fan of giving because it feels nice to give more than receive for me, anyways. I don't. I'm just it feels a little more awkward when it's the other way around for me. I'd rather be in the position of giving than receiving, but
yeah,
everybody's different. So
yeah,
I think ultimately it's like whatever makes. And I know some people go, "Hey, it's awkward for me to give because I feel like the other person is going to feel
I
bad
feel like
because they didn't give." So
yeah,
there's that. Which for me, I don't care. I don't want anything in return, so I'm fine with it. But I can understand someone saying, "Hey, don't give me anything because I didn't give you anything. I don't want to
yeah,
do that. Like that's not where I'm at." So you kind of have to do this thing with a. Again, it depends. Kind of
yeah,
feel. I'm not doing
yeah.
anything this year for what it's worth.
By the way, if you work with
But
TW at
by the
all
way,
now,
what
he
it's
ain't
worth.
giving you
Yeah,
nada.
you ain't get nothing. There's no rush hour gift basket I'm about to present.
Oh
Um,
man,
no.
that's
And
awesome,
the
man.
other thing I was going to say, we've got LinkedIn going now. If people don't follow you on LinkedIn, you've got 15,000 or so followers. You give all these daily updates and tips on what's happening in the tech world. But I want you started posting about the rush hour pod. I wanted to
Yeah,
understand how's it going? Like the impressions have been incredible. But what have you seen as you've incorporated sort of our little shorts here and there into LinkedIn?
yeah. I generally it's been a really great response, and I can talk about some of the metrics of how they did.
Yeah,
People care about impressions and things like that. But it's been a really great response in terms of people being able to take tangible insights from the content and reach out via DMs, or we'll have conversations just like after people kind of watched it and go, hey,
yeah,
actually that was really meaningful and useful. And I think that's the whole point of why we're doing this, because
yeah,
we enjoy having these conversations, but then we also like giving back based on our experience. And so that's been really great to get that feedback. In terms of like how the posts have done, it's so, so we've probably done, 3 or 4 different videos from my account focused on different clips or themes from the podcast. And I would say out of the 4, like 2 hit almost like 200,000 impressions, which is like
wow,
crazy.
yeah, that's awesome.
Um, 2 were like a bit more muted, but still within like a significant number of impressions range. But LinkedIn video, man, if y'all aren't on there, and I know it's hard to put yourself out there and you're worried about the lighting and your mic and people think you're self-serving, whatever it is, if you're trying to get content out for a professional audience, or you're a solopreneur, or you're working at some business that's trying to kind of sell into a specific demographic, I think there's no better channel right now on that platform than video. Uh, Within the content distribution, you may not always get the most engagement in posts, but relative to
Yeah,
more people, like eyeballs on your content, there's no. I think if you're making professional content right now, even versus TikTok, there's no better place right now
agreed.
than TikTok. This is not sponsored by LinkedIn. Although, hey, LinkedIn, I love you. If you want to sponsor us,
Yeah,
that would be great.
yeah, Ryan
Right?
McDougal, we're tagging you in this. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, yeah.
No, for
Uh,
sure, I agree. It's linked. I mean, I never post on LinkedIn. I just have only used it for like job searching. But because of you and this, I was jumping on there and doing a little more.
yeah.
And I'm like, I think I hit you up. I'm like, yo, I think LinkedIn Shorts is a thing. Like, it's pretty
Oh,
good.
yeah.
And then I posted one. I'm like, oh wow, I reached like my entire following in one
Hmm.
post, and I did another one about us of launching
Yep.
Rush Hour, and the same thing. I think it went over. It did much better than I expected. So, like, expect more of that. We'll cut these up and we'll post them and we'll share data, and we can go from there. I think this LinkedIn is really, I love YouTube, and I'm personally on YouTube, but there's such a breadth of content on there. It feels like LinkedIn is really built for our audience.
100%. And maybe, some people are okay saying, all right, okay, Justin and TW, I'm going to take your advice. I'm going to create content. So like, how should I think about the content itself? Don't stress yourself out. If there is
Right.
anything that I'll leave you with, one, try to just deliver some type of value, right? There's the first 3 second, clickbait type of thing. And I think you have to do that. Just we're human beings. That's how you get people's attention. That
Right.
just is the deal. But try to leave people with some type of tangible, tangible value they can take away. That's number one. Number two, try to make your content, um, like a minute to, no more than like a minute, 15 seconds. If you make it too long relative to that format of the shorts, I don't think the algorithm distributes it as
Right.
far. We've done some videos where it's like where it's like been like two people and sorry, would it's been like 2 minutes or so? And I thought the content was good, but it just didn't get as much as many impressions. I think because
Yeah.
it was just too long. And the other thing that I would say is, as important as the video is the written content as well, because a
I
certain people
think so
will
too.
watch it, but if you're trying to convert people into a certain action, and we could talk for a million years about this, TW and I, about conversion funnels and how to think about content and how to think about actions. Think of that as like the top of the funnel of the action that you want people to take. So even if you
Right.
get a lot of impressions, that's cool. But like, how many people actually engaged with the content? Commented if you asked them to comment, engaged with podcasts if we're promoting our podcast, things like that. That's also really important as well. And transparently, we're getting better at that. But I think we've unlocked, hey, this is generally the type of content that works well in this
Right.
format. Now it's
Right.
just getting better at the other parts of the funnel. But yeah, I was like, this last week I've had over 250,000 post impressions, which is kind of my
Amazing.
most ever, which has been awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah, I noticed. I think when we started it, I was looking through. I'm like, all right, one thing that seems very different between Shorts and TikTok is your name, your job, and your title are immediately in the video. So the
Yeah.
introduction you can leave out. On TikTok, it's kind of like you do the hook, like here's top 5 reasons to
Yeah.
vacuum your floor or whatever it is, and then you introduce yourself on why you're the whatever guru on vacuums, and then you go into your content. Whereas you can leave that middle part out. You can
Yeah.
leave that little introduction out because like all you gotta do is look at the video, you click on the name and it tells you who they are, your title and all that. You can just go right into your content, which I think is why LinkedIn is so great at it, because you
Yeah.
get so much context in the text, and then the video you can just give, like you said, you can just give value. And you kind of know the space, this is all LinkedIn, so it's going to be business related or work related or some form, which is cool. But yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. Just get on there and do it. Like I didn't want to do it. I was like, it feels so awkward. I
I
didn't,
know.
but I was like, all right, I'm just going to do it. And then you kind of get used to it. It's kind of like doing this, right?
Exactly.
We
Like
got
my
used to it.
I could just remember like the first time filming on here, I was like, oh my God,
What are we doing? Like,
what are we doing? Should we be doing this? And I'm so glad that we did, and so much like learning and just like we just had a ton of fun. But yeah, I feel like when I talk to people when they reach out, even like some startups that I'm working with, they're like, oh, I see you're on LinkedIn a lot. Like, how should I be thinking about strategy on here, et cetera? You have to go out and do it.
Yep.
I think why I've been successful as a marketer over time is because I'm just gotten over the hump of being afraid of doing certain things. And then I've just been extremely consistent. I posted on LinkedIn every day for 8 years. And TW will tell you that like, it's literally a fact. You can go back and look at the receipts.
Yes.
Right. And if you do those two things, then you're going to learn a lot and you just will get better. And one other thing that I would say specifically about LinkedIn in terms of the video format, maybe if you made it this far in the content, you get a little bonus, is because of the way that the format works and that you can see your like your kind of title and your kind of work experience, you want to think about that within like an SEO context of like, what is the key takeaway that I want people to get from my profile as well. So if it's just your role, that's fine. If you're like, I help startups do XYZ, like make sure that's in there as well. So that in terms of the journey, we talk about customer journey a lot of marketing. It's customer journey, people seeing the content and then going out taking actions. You want to optimize each part of that. And the more scientific you can get about that, the better we'll be towards driving conversions that you want to drive.
Yeah, it makes a total sense. I think you don't want to oversimplify it, but it is really just get on there, talk about it, and then see what you learn, and then you can just delete it if you don't like it.
Yeah.
Just delete it. It's not a big deal. I don't think we're very hard on ourselves, but ultimately other people, they see it, they absorb it, and they move on. They don't really think about like, can't believe he wore that shirt, can't believe his lighting was like that. Like, there's none of that. Like, I've never said that about anyone on LinkedIn. So just think about that. You're going to be way harder on yourself than we are of you. So
Yeah,
just jump on there and do it.
100%. Maybe I'll end with this unless there's anything you want to talk about in this topic, which is, I did a LinkedIn post recently about my experience as a founder and, the reticence on kind of going, all in on one of my ideas. And ultimately, my brother was like, hey, are we going to do this or not? Talking about dating app startup that I worked on was kind of
Yeah.
like my introduction to tech. And I think there are just kind of times in your life and moments where you just have to go out there and just do the thing
Yep.
and try it. And maybe you'll be wildly successful. Maybe you'll, fail stupendously, but at least you'll be in the arena. And at least you can say you did it. And 95% of people will not do that. And so if you're thinking about like LinkedIn right now, or you're thinking about doing a podcast, if you're thinking about writing, go out there, do it, and just get better each time. And I guarantee, I hate to make guarantees, but I guarantee if you do that consistently, you will get better at whatever you're trying to do. It just absolutely will happen.
Yeah, right. I mean, the ideas are great. Execution is where it's at. Like, if you can actually do the thing and get better and get in the habit of doing, which I think why me and you get along so well, we say it and then we just go and do it. And
Yeah,
and I
man.
think a lot of people don't. They stay in the realm of like hemming and hawing and this and that, versus just like, hey, we're gonna roll up our sleeves and be goofy and do a podcast, and we'll figure it out as we go. And it might take a while, but we'll do it and we'll be better off for it. And I feel like we
Yeah.
are. So I
Hopefully,
appreciate it.
tell us if we're getting better over time too. I
Yeah,
hope that
I
we
mean,
are, but
we could be completely making a fool of ourselves, but it's fine.
yeah, if we are, then that's all right. Our kids will see this, in
Yeah,
10
exactly.
years.
Worst
They'll be
case.
like, it's fine.
Well, anyway, appreciate you jumping on break. Happy holidays. Tell your
Happy
family said
holidays,
hi,
man. Absolutely will.
and we'll be back New Year, right? Maybe we'll do one. Well, we'll see. Next week, maybe we'll do one, but
Yeah,
I'll hit
well,
it.
let's see if we'll do one next week. I'm definitely open to it. Although my wife might be like, "Hey, we're not doing it this week," but we'll see.
Yeah, that's fine.
We're hustlers. But
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
if anyone has any like topics or things that they want us to talk about in 2025, we're trying to think about our editorial calendar going into next year. We're always open to new stuff and also guests, people you think we
Yep.
should talk to in the space. So feel free to drop that in the comments, and hope everyone has a fantastic holiday.
All right, man. Happy holidays.
All right.
I can hear
Happy
the
holidays.
kids screaming for you. Later.
I know. Later.
Free